Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We're at the Kinnis HaShluchim, and but we don't want to miss out an opportunity to learn. So I'd like, before we start, there is a story that I want to bring up, and I want to tell the story first. The story is told in there's different stories, but the upshot is the same. And this is one story that I found in Shivchei Baal Shem Tov. So I'll read the story the way it is. There was a story that happened in Tzfas. Rabbi Kitaver, the brother-in-law of the Baal Shem Tov, moved to Tzfas, and he came to Tzfas, and v'hoya shom arav de kehila kadisha nikra b'lushonim chacham. Never heard of such a thing. The rabbi is called a chacham. V'yish toiv meyoid v'oyev lebegershin. I don't have no money. And the Chacham gave him a loan some money. So it was on a Friday, and they were in shul, and he looked into his pocket to get a handkerchief, and out went flying. From Rabbi Gershon's pocket came a little wallet, and it fell on the ground, and there was a clink clank. There was money in it. So the Chacham picked it up. There's a whole debate here in the who the Chacham was, and they think they know who it was. And he said, "What are you telling me? You have no money. You have money here." So it got into an argument very quickly, and the Chacham said to Rabbi Gershon that he says, I make a shvur that you're lying. And Rabbi Gershon said, you're in Chedim right now. The Chacham took off his shoes, and he went to his house, and he called the people, and he said, look at the wallet. This guy is coming to me to get a loan for food for Shabbos. This guy came here from Europe, and it turns out he's an oichel. He's a crook. So they went back to the Gershon. They said, you see, you were caught. He said, well, why didn't the Chacham open the wallet open and look at what kind of coins? They're European coins that are useless here in the Ottoman Empire. And I can't do anything with it. So Chacham went and he asked for forgiveness from Reb Gershon. Reb Gershon was Nespias, and he forgave him. Then he was Mateh the Chedim. Now there's a letter from the Baal Shem Tov to Reb Gershon, and he writes that I saw that in the Heichel Echad in heaven, I was walking in heaven, and I saw that they wanted to kill you, Rachmana litzlan, because you had Azaz Ponim against the Rav Av Bezdin and Tzfas. I ran into the Heichel and I started to beg for you. I said, Ribono Shel Olam, he only did for your good because he thought that this was a Shvur Sheket that the Chacham made. So in heaven they paskened that Reb Gershon will be blind for 1 month, and Sumas Kameis, and then the Baal Shem Tov says, as I told you many times, don't be such a difficult person. To take it easy, take a chill pill, and be a little more calm, and things will be better for you. Reb Gershon writes back, yeah, it's a true story, but I don't understand. How did you know the story? It takes time for a letter to come from Europe, and I got the letter from you a day after the story happened. Okay, Ad Kan, the story in Shivchei Baal Shem Tov. Next story is a totally new thing. So, in the Tzemach Tzedek, in Derech Metzusecha, and several places in Chassidus says that there is stories of the Baal Shem Tov. They don't mention this story specifically. There are stories of the Baal Shem Tov where he told people things, and then whoops, it turns out it didn't happen yet. And the Baal Shem Tov said, oh, I'm sorry. I was in the world of Yitzira, and over there 15 years is Beskira Achas. So I saw something and it didn't happen yet. And I mentioned it. Whoops, sorry. So I'm just starting off with the story, which is an interesting story. And this concept of time getting a little mushy as you get up higher is something we spoke about in the past and we will speak about in the future. It's a dynamic thing. But today I just want to start, there's a Zoyar. I hope I'll get a chance to make a copy of it and send it over to Beis Menachem Mendel. There's a Zohar in Parshas Chayesora. The Zohar says, "V'Avram zokem baba yomim v'Hashem beirechas Avram b'koil." Rabbi Yehuda Posrach, he said, "Haikro itmar aval sakoa barnash de urche is kashen kamu kuchabrichu. Tochazi Avram iskeri v'legabe v'siufta delay hava kol yom b'bahai v'lo iskeri v'Avram yom echad b'zim nechad." Avram didn't come close to God in one day, in one moment. Elav doy krive lebechol yom. His good actions made him closer every day to God, to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Adistalag begavoy kad have a sieve when he got old. V'oil b'dargen eloin kedekachazi when he got older and he got into the higher levels, which the pasuk says the ksiv Avram Zaken kedeim bo bayomim binyan yomin eloin. He went into those holy heavenly days. He came into those days, which is the Soida Amuna, and then Avram Berechas Avram Bakoil, which is Bakoil Tamon Novkin Kol Bechon V'Choltiv. But as Zakon Hein, more in the Tshuva, but the lucky at the Bala Tshuva, the B'Shaitachod, the B'Yoimachod, the B'Rigachod, the Kriven Lelega Kuche Brichu. In a very short time, they just jumped to get close to the Eibishter. What it took Avram Avinu a whole lifetime. And the Zohar continues that the same thing by David HaMelech, it's the Haftorah from this week, Melech Zokem Baba Yomen, it took him time to get there. Aval Morid Tshuva miyad ol v'stabek be'bekutcher b'richu. Okay, so there is, in the past few weeks we did sichas that the Rebbe brings from his father. The Rebbe's father didn't have but 2-3 svarim, a chumash in the Zohar, when he was b'makom galusay. Even though he wrote a ton of tshuvas and a ton of chidush Torah, they're all lost. And dafke chachmasa shamde b'chachmasa shalamadati b'aft amdali. The Gemara says that sometimes the chachma that you learn in a difficult moment, that's what stays with you. So dafke, that Torah that he wrote with the ink that his wife made him in Siddur Nefesh and berry she picked, is what was smuggled out of Russia and brought to the Rebbe. The Rebbe had a minhag for many years that in Shabbos he would say a piece of the Zohar and a piece from his father on the Zohar and explain what his father's intention was. So for example, if you want to look, so here is a piece of Zohar with the Rebbe's father's writing on the sides. Tiny, tiny writing with the ink that his wife made. So the Rebbe's father asks that l'choyre doesn't make sense. L'choyre, he writes, Shaloi ala seder, ki hava leloimer, yoim meshayt riga. You should, the order of these three expressions should be either from the biggest to the smallest, or the smallest to the biggest. You come to the Eibishter, that should say it takes a day, an hour, a moment. That not only a Baal Tshuva doesn't take him a whole lifetime, he could do it in one day. Not only 1 day, 1 hour. Not only 1 hour, he could do it in 1 minute. And if you wanted to say just the bottom line, so just say riga choda. Why do we need 3 expressions? And if we're going to have 3 expressions, you should go with the right order. An hour, a day, a moment. You're all over the place. Either you say a day, an hour, a moment, or you say a moment, an hour, a day. And B'chlal, why does the Zohar need to have 3 expressions? We want to say that Avram and David HaMelech, it took them a lifetime to get close to the Eibishter. But about Tshuva, 1 moment, so just say 1 moment. And if you want to say 3 expressions to emphasize it, so the 3 expressions should be in the order. It should be, not only take him short as a day, it could take him 1 hour. Not only 1 hour, it could take him 1 minute. Yesh loimash, yesh gimbal bechinas tshuva. There's 3 levels in tshuva. Amagir b'malchus, b'zoh b'bina. There's 3 levels in tshuva. Malchus, zoh and bina. Kamashkosa b'lakute toira b'dibra maschal matoy v'lacha Yaakov ayin sham. It's a maimah we learned the past summer. It's an unbelievable maimah. 3 dagas in tshuva. V'zeh b'shaita b'malchus, anikra shah, b'yoyim b'zoh anikra yoyim, rega b'bina. And then he says, shah, yoyim, and rega, imais yisayim is mispa tshuva. So, true, in the Lakutei Torah has 3 levels of tshuva. A beautiful thing. It explains how there is that the first level of tshuva is, it's a maimah we learned, it's an unbelievable maimah. The first level of tshuva is a person, I'm not going to do any bad. The reason I'm not in touch with my neshama, my neshama, is because of the avoinus. So I decide that's it. Sur meira. Then there is a high level in tshuva, it's asay tov, that not I'm just doing the minimum or whatever is required in the mitzvahs that I do. I have such a chayis in doing mitzvahs that I want to do with the full yegiyah that I could do. That's the tshuva of asay tov. And that's a higher level of tshuva. The first level of tshuva is a malchus, machshava dibur ma'aseh. The second level of tshuva is in the 6 midas. I'm doing it with such excitement. Midas, I'm doing mitzvahs with excitement. The highest level in tshuva is the inyan of Torah, become one with the Eibishter, which is the inyan of bina. Okay. So, because so now we understand the order of the 3 expressions. Because as we're going from lower to higher, shaitacha, the shaita as a shaykhis to malchus, because malchus is called shah. Yoima is called zah, because in many places in the Zohar that we see that malchus is called shah, and zah is called yoim, and reg is called bina. So because we're going in the order, we're going up. Malchus, zah, bina. Okay. That's in Kabbalah, but how does he answer the question? Because it fits, it click-clacks into the way it works in Kabbalah. Malchus, Zah, Bina. But still, the shaila is that you tell me about tshuva doesn't need a lifetime. One jump, one knack. So you should tell me he could do it in a day. Not only a day, he could do it in an hour, not an hour, in a minute. But how does it answer the shaila? The Rebbe says that his father didn't have enough ink and enough paper. And Bekoitzer Adyoyim, Koitzer Anayar, he didn't explain, and the Rebbe wants to fill in. So here's the beer from the Rebbe, Bekitzer Nimritz. Bekitzer Nimritz. Here is a beer nifla from the Rebbe, a beer nifla. It's in Lakuta Sichis. I'm looking in Lakuta Sichis Parshas Chayesor Sicha Yud Gimel. Otherwise, it's in Lakuta Sichis, volume 20, Chelak Chof, Amud 86. Okay. 86 till 90. Okay. The Rebbe says like this. We'll try to find a contradiction in Chazal. What is better? Arichis or kitzer? Sometimes we say that a kitzer is the pure essential oil. Like the Rambam writes that the Mishnah is dover kotzer v'koilul inyanim rabim. The Gemara is not as exalted, is not as high level as the Mishnah. Therefore, it's more about arichis. The Rishonim are more the Kitzah. The Acharonim is more Barichas. That's why there's a klal that's brought in the Yad Malachi. The Yad Malachi is a very important sefer klolim on the Shas and on the Poiskim. He writes, Basroa havalei lefarish yoise. That's why there's a klal. Sometimes we say if a Rishon didn't explain himself, you can't blame him because he wanted to be Bekitza. But a Poisek Achron that should have explained himself, because he didn't, so Bistama, if he didn't explain himself, so it means so and so, this and that. But from an earlier source, you can't be Medaik, maybe he just wanted to be Bekitza. So it's a very delicate and interesting and klal. You have to know the context always to understand the klal and to know where to apply it. But the bottom line is, the Mishnah is more Bekitza, because that's more exalted. The Gemara is more Barichas. On the other hand, we say, that because the Talmud can't, if you're teaching it to another Rav, so that doesn't matter. But if you're teaching it to a Talmud, it has to be B'derech Tzara, because you're going to mix them up. So if you're going to tell them the whole Arichas is not good, so the Arichas is good. If you're teaching one Rav to another Rav, you can give the Arichas. But if you're teaching it to a Talmud, you have to give him a Ketzara. You have to give him baby bites, a little bit on baby steps. So in the one hand, we say that the Kitzur is in the higher level. The Mishnah is the Kitzur and the Gemara is the Arichas. On the other hand, we say, no, the Kitzur is in the lower level. The little Talmud, you have to give him baby steps, you give him the Kitzur. But a Rav to a Rav could give it the Arichas. So which is on a higher level? The Kitzur is in the higher level and the Arichas in the lower, or the other way around? So the answer is a famous word in Chassidus, Sevenzach vomeret. Sevenzach vomeret. It all depends. Where are we talking about? And which level are we talking about? So, like this. If we have to go from one world to another world, from the world of Mishnah to the world of Gemara, from the world of Rishonim to the world of Acharonim, from the Acharonim to the world of the Poskim, if we have to go from one world to the other world, so in a higher world, it's pure. The emes, you could see it in a second. You have to bring it down to a lower world. It takes a long time. In Yitzira, it's in a minute. It has to come down in this world. It takes 15 years. Just like, for example, the Chush Hariyah and Chush Hashmiyah. Chush Hariyah is in what you could see in a second. If you have to explain it to someone, it could take 5 hours. Mashenk, this is when you have to bring something from one world to a lower world. But when you're within one world, it's the other way around. A simple svara, one sentence, you explain it. If it's a deep svara, it take an hour to explain. When the Gemara wants to tell you a simple svara, it spends 2-3 lines. When the Gemara wants to tell you a very difficult svara, it takes a whole sugya, 3-4 pages. So bottom line, within one olam, so bekitza means a simple thing. Arichis is something deep, you have to explain it. But when you're talking from one world to the other world, it's the other way around. The kitzer is the pure truth. Like the example we said in Chush Hariyah, when you see something in 1 second, you see the whole story. If you have to explain it to someone who can't see it, who wasn't there, it take a few hours to explain it. Okay. So bottom line, when you go from a higher world to a lower world, so kitzer is the higher world, it's the whole thing could be in 1 minute. In the lower world, it's 15 years. But within one world itself, it's the other way around. Okay, now we'll understand the Rebbe says. Now we'll understand what my father is trying to answer in the 3 Lashonos in the Zohar. Within Zohar Malchus are within the same world. They're all within Tshuva Tatoah. Zohar Malchus have a relationship. Bina and Chochma already a totally different thing. They're moichin. It's a different thing. In the world of moichin, it takes 1 second. So on the highest level, it's Riga Choda, 1 second. But within Tshuva Tatoah, we say there's 2 levels. So like this, when a person starts doing Tshuva, the first thing is Sur Meira, Machshava Di Bermaisi, he's going to go away from doing any evil. He's going to go away from doing against what the Eibishter wants. So that's the idea of Malchus. B'shaita Choda, like Chassidus says, one Vayesh Hashem el Hevel v'mchas v'kayim v'chas Eloisha. You have to give one turn to the Eibishter. That's Sur Meira. I'm going away from Ra. I'm going to only do what the Eibishter wants. That takes not a lot. That takes 1 hour, less than an hour. Just turn to the Eibishter. Then he wants to go up more in Tshuva Tatoah, a higher level within Tshuva Tatoah, which is Vasei Toiv, that he'll be Mesiageya because he's going to have now an unbelievable Ava V'yida and a lot of Midas, which is always the idea of Midas. He's going to have excitement in the doing of mitzvahs. He wants to connect to the Eibishter, and the only way is through mitzvahs. So he'll be Mesiageya and doing mitzvahs. So that's already Yom Echad that takes a day. That already be Yom Echad that takes a day. It takes a little more. But then when a person goes up all the way to the highest olam, which is the high Tshuva Eloah, Tshuva Eloah, that's already Riga Chada, 1 second. That's the connection to the Eibishter through Limud HaTorah. The Yid and the Eibishter becomes one. That's 1 second. That's why we understand that the Hemshech HaLashon, Shaita Choda, Yom Choda, Riga Choda. When we're within Tshuva Tatoah, there's 2 levels. So the first is Shaita Choda, Malchus, Sur Meira. Then it takes a little more time. Yom Choda, which is the Yom is the of Zah, Midas. And when he jumps to Tshuva Eloah, the highest level is Riga Choda. And the Rebbe says that we find that Ramak has a girs in the Zohar that Zimna Choda, that 4th Lashon, Because there is, the Alter Rebbe says that even though B'chlolos there's 3 levels of tshuva, there's a 4th level of tshuva, L'yoydei dover. So therefore, L'yoydei dover, there's another girs in the Zohar that has another expression, Zimna Chada. Because Rega, there's a whole machloikas nigamar what it means Rega, and Barachas Dav Zayin Amad Aleph. It could be Rega Kememra. Rega Kememra means Rega is as long as it takes to say the word Rega. But Zimna means a second. That's the darga of tshuva, which is Chochma, which is the inyan of tshuva, Kadosh Atzmacha B'muter. Bottom, let's wrap it up. Bottom line is the Rebbe shall help that we should be able to do tshuva in a way of shaita choda, yoyme choda, and riga choda. And we know that la'alta l'tshuva, la'alta l'gula, from that was zoichet to have the bias Mashiach tzedkeinu. And now you understand this, the Chadras and Chadras Kodesh that the Rebbe used to have, and the Rebbe used to say a lot of times that Mashiach should come in the schus of our doing tshuva, and the Rebbe used to say b'shaita choda, b'yoyme choda, b'riga choda, and the Rebbe would say b'zimna choda, and the Rebbe would say rega kememre. That this is not just 3 expressions, and there's an oime godel, and how we're going up from one level to a higher level to a higher level. The Rebbe shall helfen that in the schus of our doing tshuva, the alta l'tshuva, the alta l'gula, that we should be zoichet, that we should have, just like a Baal tshuva gives a 1 knack, and on the highest level it's beriga chavda, bezimna chada, that same thing that Mashiach should come b'shaita chada, b'yoyme chada, beriga chada, bezimna chada, keheref ayin, we blink with the eye and we're zoichet to see that we're in Yerushalayim, ira kodesh, bevias Mashiach tzedkeinu.